My father was a shepherd on farms throughout his life here while he was here, and I grew up basically following him around on horseback and helping to clear up sheepskins and drove sheep. And back in the old days, yeah, that was my first introduction. Just grew a passion out of that, I guess, for it, yeah. I think if you're born and brought up in the camp and just, yeah, appreciate the freedom, then that's, it comes back to you as you later in life, after you got the wildness out of your system. I think you just you want to go back to that life that you was brought up to, the wild, free life of being outside and working with animals and that all the time. It's been, yeah, it's been a passion of mine all my life, basically. I think throughout your experience with working with animals, you start to appreciate their flight area and their behaviour. When I started moving them around, I was a bit in the old system of herding them as opposed to actually trying to train them to work with me, and I started to notice they were reacting to going through gateways, so I thought, I'm going to start calling these animals now. When they start going through the gate, I'll call them. Come on then. Come on. Come on then. Come on then. Come on. Come on then. And over the years now, well, you've got evidence of me being able to walk up past the sheep to the gate, and they just turn away from me. I call them, they all turn around and come back and look at me, and then trundle off through the gate. And I guess over the years, because the lambs see me from probably when a few days to a few weeks old, they'll be seeing me right through their life, and there's this old guy that gets out there calling them, and it's like mother follows him, so we'll follow him, and they're born into the system. So. No, they're all here. It's really weird, this flock, when you move them. Once one lot starts running, they all join up. They seem to have a good telecommunications between them. If I was told this 12 years ago that you could do that, I probably wouldn't have believed it myself. But now that I've done it and seen it happen, it's yeah, it makes it a pleasure to actually work with the animals when they react to you like that. And applied the same principle to the cattle. You know, I want them to know that I'm the guy that's going to make them feel good by moving them to a different pasture. And like when I gather now, I always gather to the pace of the animal. It's never or move animals or anything. It's at their pace, not the pace you want them to go. I've got this thing about looking after the environment now. It's really sort of got, it's like a bug that's got under my skin, and I just want to, you know, keep the Falklands land as it is, and produce a product from it that's actually 100% natural Falkland Island product. It's experience over the years that sort of you start sort of looking at things differently, like understanding the reasons why we need to be looking after the environment, but how that also contributes to a better productive system, and things like, you know, looking after your coastline where lots of your better feeds do grow. I would say Rick Evans would be the guy that sort of initiated the change in my mind. I would say you know, when he came with this after doing a grazing for profit course by a guy called Sean Martin that come down here, and then we had, you know, other people, grazers come in through the agricultural department, the Jim Garish and people like that. And you know, Jim Garish said to me one day, that an animal needs protein from every 3 days to keep the rumen bug working in the body. And he said if you fence your land up and you move your, theoretically, if you move your sheep every 3 days, then they will get protein because you're saving it in pastures. And I couldn't get it in my head. So if you look here, where it's cropped, all the grass, the fine grass is cropped down, and just over the fence where we've put these sheep, look how it looks different, where it's all nice sweet green. Years ago, if people said you could grow nice sweet grass on a peat bank, they'd have laughed at you. There's living proof. So that there's a little green rush, and there's also the very fine hair grass, and that's why they're all crowded on here, because that's their little ice cream of the day, because it's been allowed to spell, it's given time to grow, and you get the high impact of the animals because they're being moved around, so they're actually depositing so much nutrient back into the ground that it fertilizes the ground as well at the same time. That's why it's growing so well. All natural pasture. It's all good. We're actually down on the far north coast of Elephant Beach Farm. This is my ewe breeding ground, basically. They actually clear the stiddle-dee off the ground, and later on in a couple of years it'll actually grow back as nice greens like you see around here, the green grass that's around here, and the other green patches that's dotted all around. It's all made by penguin colonies over the years, and they improve the ground. I call them my little soldiers of the sea. They actually come harvest into the sea and deposit their nutrient on the ground, fertilizer, natural fertilizer, and the sheep benefit from that, from the improvement in the ground. So the two working together, basically. You often see the penguins walking up through the sheep, and they'll just look up at them and say, yeah, that's okay. They don't. You'll see the sheep feeding right around the edge of the colonies, and they just get on together. To me, nature owns the land. You know, I was asked a question about penguins actually using my land, and I said, no, it's theirs. You know, they'll be here longer than I will be, and I just see myself as a custodian of the land, really, to pass it on to the next generation. And if I can improve the land and make it better than it was, and marry the whole system up so as it's working really well, then I feel I've done a good job. You know, I'll pass it on to a generation that'll come along and say, yes, I've actually got something that's been taken care of and looked after and progressed, as opposed to getting some land that's been constantly beat to death and then have to start the repair process again.
We came into contact with Ben from some of our local contacts due to the fact that he had similar ideas with our owner of the farm, and we talked to him. We found that there were common grounds, and from there on we proposed to him to also manage the farm of Cape Dolphin. And being very in close proximity to Elephant Beach Farm, it was just a natural go-ahead. And we found that his ideas followed very much the ideas of the owners of Cape Dolphin Farm. My principal, Panos Laskaridis, who owns the farm, bought the farm back in 2009. At that time, his daughter Christina was working at Falklands Conservation, and the notion of buying this very special, pristine part of East Falklands had to do mostly with the aspect of conservation. However, the fact that he was a foreign owner, he had to comply with the rules and regulations of the Department of Agriculture, which meant that farming had to be a part of the first 10 years of the farm's operation under his ownership. The original intention was basically to have land that they would be able to allow, the wildlife to flourish, and at the same time try to find a synergy between farming and conservation.
A lot of people don't think that conservation and farming go together because their goals can be conflicting, but Ben's proved that you can work really well with conservation so long as you manage what you're doing. So he does that big tussock planting campaign that both here and at Cape Dolphin. And when we were at Cape Dolphin yesterday, and we could just see the difference. And
10 years since we were down there, and we saw an incredible difference in the tussock.
For me, tussock is the gem of the islands. I would say it's a local species that brings out top performance in animals. It's got the whole thing. It provides great wildlife habitat for your birds, your invertebrates, your sea lions, whatever it may be, and then it's a fantastic winter feed for cattle. Cattle is some of the best beef in the world. We're growing the cattle production at Cape Dolphin. I'm hoping to get more cattle on the farm here, and along with my tussock planting and whatever. It's natural, it's there, it's a plant that grows on the soils around the coastlines. People have it in their hen runs or whatever, so you only have to mimic the soil type to maybe even spread it inland, I don't know. But growing tussock to me would be a far better option than putting in a crop of Swedes or something and watch your soil blowing out over the hill. And we've made some progress, and I've been doing that here for 10 years now. We work with Falklands Conservation. They organise that we get people out to volunteer their free time and help us do it.
That's very good.
We pull a tiller, what we call it. It's like a stalk out of the actual plant, because it's a long leafy plant. So you actually pull the tiller out and make sure that it has some shoots on it, and then basically find a bare peaty ground or maybe a lightly rotivated area that doesn't have a lot of other cover on it, and plant it into it. This wasn't actually filled in before I changed the management of this down here, and now the whole area is filled in with all this young tussock grass right out to this outer edge where all the young plants are starting to spread. This is a dramatic change. They say the whole Falklands coastline border used to be covered in tussock grass. So all that coastline all the way up there would have been tussock many, many years ago. My vision is to recreate it. The process has started. Whether I'll live long enough to see it come to fruition, I don't know. This was just black soil when we first planted it 10 years ago, yeah. If I could get this whole area looking like this,
Yeah.
then we're going somewhere.
Yeah.
Fat cattle, sea lions and bird life and whatever, yeah.
It took a while.
at Cape Dolphin I've been doing a beach clean every year, or sometimes two, with volunteers through Falklands Conservation, normally from Mount Pleasant or people locally in Stanley that want to come out and do that sort of thing. It's a pleasure for me to see when you drive out to the coast with a load of vehicles and the doors fly open and kids come howling out and tearing off down the beaches and really enjoying themselves. And probably even the children don't even realise at the time, but it is a part of a nice education process where they have fun and do a job, and later in life they'll probably look back and say, yeah, you know, I done my bit for the environment. And you usually see that the people that go through that process actually, as they grow older or age or whatever it is, they have a more of a passion for the environment.
We helped clean up some beaches, and we've been looking for pebbles.
In the big pile of, like in the big group of rock hoppers, no, Magellanics and Gen 2s, there was one little rock hopper.
Yeah.
Tiny one. It was very tiny.
Beach cleaning, tussock planting, whatever it may be. I'm getting to the stage now where I get too many people, you know. I've sort of built this extension on the house to sort of host people, but now that I probably need something bigger if we're going to take all the people that want to volunteer.
We went to work at Port San Carlos and Ben was working there, and we've been friends ever since. Then when we were in Stanley, he was in Stanley, so we remained friends, and then he came out here, and we used to have a caravan over at Newhouse, and Ben offered us to build something a bit more permanent here, and just said, pick a spot.
That was after I came and basically set for Ben because his dad was ill, so he had to go off and see his dad. So I came in and looked after his dogs and things like that for him for maybe 6-8 weeks, something like that. It used to be very quiet, but not so quiet anymore. We seem to have lots of visitors.
You hold them on the board like that. Yeah? Yeah? And then we'll do the bits on the outside. Everybody got that? They do wriggle.
And the best thing is to watch and see that the board's not full of people all waiting, because otherwise you're holding something for longer than you need to, and by the end of 10,000 sheep you're going to be knackered.
I like to sort of try and make people feel welcome, and I usually put on a big feast, and we'll have a nice feed in the evening, and a few drinks, and sometimes some silly party games just to keep people entertained. And then, after a day's work, I usually say, well, let's take a couple of hours and then really go and enjoy the wildlife and what else the coastline and that has to offer. One day last year in March, there was a nice calm day, no wind, and I'd been out working all day, and I thought, I'll just go for a spin to the coast and have a look. And I actually went out and sat on a hill on the coast, and it was just a phenomenal day. There was dolphins playing in the surf in one small bay. There was whales surfing out off coming up and blowing, and you could see their tails and fins just out off the kelp line. Gentoos streaming in from up the sand beach and walking away inland to their nesting site. And I thought, gee, where else in the world would you want to live on a day like this? It's pretty phenomenal, yeah.
There's an increase of wildlife that comes back, and we also see as well new residents on the Cape. For example, right now we have rockhoppers have appeared, macaroni penguins, elephant seals, a lot of predatory birds that were not there before, falcons, the caracaras, the crested ones. There's an abundance of aquatic birds. There's areas where the giant southern petrel have colonies, and they go and breed there. It's just an amazing place. It's a gem, and for me it is something special.
We noticed that we were having owls sitting on the balconies, because I guess they were using them as good spots for observing for the mice and listening for the mice and things around. So we bought a couple of nest boxes, especially for barn owls, and we put them up. And once one was inhabited, which took about a couple of years, a thrush took it on first, but the owls eventually ousted that out. And then this last year they started laying, and we just got 2 fledging now, and those are owlets number 9 and 10 within a year.
Oh, it's my life, it's what I love doing. It's wild, it's free, it's good, easy life. Well, I wouldn't say easy life, but it is a good life. It's, you're out in the fresh air, you're working with animals, you're seeing performance, you're seeing change in pasture. I don't think you can get a better life, really. I think when you're in farming, you've got a passion for what you do, and you try and fit your life around it somehow. I know there's a lot of time, I'd like to spend a lot more time with my granddaughter and that, and we've got another one coming on now. But it is not a 9-to-5 job. You've got to be there, and especially if you're running tourism as well. My son sort of grew up from 8 years old here, and he's really, I think soon he would like to get his own farm, or maybe come and take this on. I don't know what their real plans are, but he's very supportive of it, and he likes to get out when he can and help and whatever. And at the moment the wife's off in the UK doing a nursing course, so we'll see when she comes back. It was a bit of a shock to her, but coming here and doing the farming, but it's something that I think grows on you as time goes on, or maybe she'll be thinking, well, he'll get old one day and retire from it, and we'll give up and do something else. I don't know. That's me. That's what I was born and brought up to do this sort of thing, and that's my love, really. I've found my place. Basically struggling to make a living off the actual farming side when the wool prices were down, and before the abattoir come online and we were able to sell meat and that. So I thought, you know, we had to find some other way. And having a nice piece of coastline and whatever, I thought, you know, we'll have to go into tourism and try that. And I think just the entertainment side, it's good meeting a diverse amount of people from all walks of life and sharing. It's not worth having this brilliant world if you can't share it with somebody and make somebody else's life feel a bit special if you take them out on a tour or whatever. Got a big old bull just laying directly down below us here. Two more just there.
With Ben, we could provide both of the best of both worlds, you know, compliance with the requirements of foreign ownership, plus, you know, to bring back, you know, the land to its pristine state.
I could see it growing, and we are a really good community here. We've known Ben for years, we've always got on, and I think we always will do.
There'll always be something to learn. I like to talk to people from around the world that been through these things, whether it's through tourism or whatever. You get people from all walks of life, and there's always one little key thing that you'll think, I'll try that.